Okay, today we are playing a game on Watchpoint Gibraltar. We are in the Gold SR range, and we will be playing Sombra the entire way through. This was also on the console, by the way, so consider yourself forewarned. Current team composition is Reinhardt, Orisa, Sombra, Widowmaker, Lucio, and Zenyatta. So it's real bad. Reinhardt's going to feel like he's doing nothing for very large stretches of this game, because only Orisa and Zenyatta are really going to be hanging out with him. So he's not going to get, like, Sombra, Widow, and Lucio are going to be off doing their own things. Widow might stand with Reinhardt, to be fair, but she's probably going to be off doing her own thing. So Reinhardt's going to feel like he's doing nothing for a lot of this time. Like, he's going to get to stand on the objective, I guess, but it's not really getting, like, the full value out of Reinhardt. He'd be better off playing most other tanks, probably, Zarya or, like, D.Va. Really, maybe even Roadhog, but Roadhog can end up being pretty sad, so, you know. Also, 2 off healers as your healers is very sad. Lucio should be playing a main healer, probably Mercy, because he's got a Widowmaker and an Orisa to damage boost, and Mercy's just really strong, basically. Like, she's the strongest main healer right now, out of all 3 of them. Not to say you can't play Ana and Moira. I think Ana's a lot better than people give her credit for right now, but whatever. Also, Widowmaker and Sombra are not exactly a very consistent DPS combination of DPS. That was a fucking travesty of a sentence. It's not a very consistent DPS team. So if Widowmaker and us don't, like, kill a lot of people really quickly, the enemy team is just gonna get on to the Reinhardt, Orisa, Zenyatta and kill them because they don't actually have any real healing. So once they get to them, they'll just kind of get rolled over if we don't pick a lot of people off very quickly. So it's a pretty bad team comp, is the gist of it. So we're going to start the game now. So we leave our translocator up here. That's fair enough on the high ground with our team. Gives us a lot of options. We can hang out up here, retreat to a health kit, fight up here if we want to, recommit to a fight. I don't like where exactly we leave it, though, just because, like, right there is pretty exposed. Because if we translocate back to that, at low health, we're going to be right in front of the enemy team still, up on high ground, to be fair. But if we blink back up here and we got, like, 75 health, we can just really suddenly die to, like, a Pharah or something like that if they've got one. So, I'd prefer if it was a little bit more out of the way, but that's kind of nitpicky at that point. So, Lucio, as you can see, was up to some shit, and it didn't work, so he's now dead. We are also a lot closer than we should be right now. Sombra is not really a close-range hero. She's mid-range, especially after they tightened her spread, if you know what I mean. So, we really don't want to get that close to the enemy team. Because, especially if they got, like, a Junkrat Reaper and a Tracer, as we saw in the kill feed, like, they'd really rather we were much closer to them, and we can be pretty far away from the enemy team as Sombra. Even if we're slightly into our fall-off range, it's not the end of the world, because Sombra's clip does... It's 8 damage per shot, and she's got 60 in the clip, so that's 480? 480 damage clip. That's a lot of damage. Like, even if you're slightly into your fall-off range, like, and your 8 damage bullet goes down to, like, even, like, 5. That's how much damage Soldier does per shot. So it's not really the end of the world if we're slightly into our fall-off range. And really the goal of Sombra is just to farm your ult as quickly as possible, because the Emp is very strong. And ideally we have one every team fight, which is not that unreasonable to ask for if the enemy team have got a tank we can farm. Like, if they've got, like, a D.Va, Roadhog, Reinhardt, really, like, you can just kind of bully those people, and there's not a lot they can do about it, right? So rather than, like, getting up in their grill, really, it would be better off, like, hanging out up here on the high ground, because or like back there behind the enemy team once they've pushed out a little bit more on the catwalk above us, something like that, even just on the high ground with our team. We can just farm ult off of them, and if we can kill somebody, that's great, you know, that's awesome, but that's really just kind of like if it incidentally happens, really, more than anything else. Like, in the early phases of the game, especially on a map like Gibraltar, killing somebody, like, right outside their spawn doesn't really get you very much, because don't forget their spawn's, like, right over here. This is a bad color to use right now. Their spawn is, like, right over here. So, if we kill someone, like, right here, they take 10 seconds to respawn, spend 2 seconds walking to the door, and they're back again. So it doesn't really get us very much to kill somebody, like, right out here. Even if, like, we fully kill a Zenyatta, right? We did 200 damage to the Zenyatta. But if they've got, like, a Reinhardt just hanging out over here, and we do 400 damage to the Reinhardt, that's worth more than doing 200 damage to a Zenyatta who's right outside of his spawn. Because it just doesn't really gain us very much to kill him right outside here, and we'd be better off just farming the ults. And if we're, like, up on the high ground, back there, up on the catwalk, whatever, we got a translocator out of the way, there's not a lot they can really do about that. Like, they have to commit to kill us, and especially if we're on the high ground, we can just translocate away, because it'd be very hard for them to get to us. Not that many heroes can get to the high ground that quickly, and if they do, they don't come with hard crowd control. So we can just immediately, like, translocate away. And if we just sit, like, up on the high ground or behind the enemy team, and just empty, like, 2 or 3 clips into the enemy team, we've got, like, most of our ultimate at very little risk to ourselves. And the strongest thing about Sombra is our ultimate. And the whole time that you're back there shooting at them, like, you're still pressuring them. They have to acknowledge the fact you're there. You're still doing damage to them. If you can kill somebody, great. Obviously, still do go for it if you get the opportunity to kill someone, because they'll be upset, if nothing else. But, right, killing somebody is not necessarily our goal, especially during the early sections of the game. We're really just looking to farm our ultimate. Because ideally we get to use our ultimate in every team fight as Sombra. Because as soon as they commit to a fight or we commit to a fight, they're dead. Also, the reason we died right there is just we're way too close to the enemy team. Like, we do not need to get as close to them as we do. Like, we're, like, stalling the payload and all of that. Like, that's great and everything. But, like, really the goal is just to farm ultimate. Like, we don't really want to touch the payload if we don't absolutely have to. That's what the tanks are for. Also, holding it here is not really realistic. We don't expect to do so on this map, really. Like, if we're on, like, Gibraltar, we sit up on the high ground for a little bit, but then we reconcile that they will push under us, most likely, after a little bit. So we just try and get as much ult charge during this phase as possible. Then fall back to fight them from the other side of the ditch. Like, we jump down on the other side of the ditch and fight them while they're in it. And then that's a lot better of a position for us. So we use our Emp right here, and we don't get much value out of it at all. All that really happens is we make Zarya and Tracer really upset, which they almost certainly are after that one, but it doesn't really... It's not really a great use of company resources. It doesn't... we'd won that team fight regardless, so we didn't need to use the Emp to continue to win there, or to kill those people. Whereas if we had our Emp, like, right now, that would be a lot more helpful, because they're trying to commit to a fight right now. We're still, like, really close to the enemy team. We put our translocator in a really bad spot during the start of this fight as well, which is really bad during the current iteration of Sombra, because there's just nothing we can do about that for 20 seconds, and it's right in front of their team. Now, we end up going to it, and we don't die immediately after doing so, which is pretty incredible considering the position it's in. So, went a lot better than expected. We really don't want our translocator right there. Sometimes you want to use your translocator aggressively, but not like that. That's just a really good way to get killed. So, like, this whole time we're contesting the payload, that's great. This won't work once you get, like, to a reasonably high SR. Like, this is how people end up in trouble once they kind of plateau out, where we do stuff like this, and we've gotten away with it, right? We contested the payload for fucking nearly 3 minutes at this point. We won't get away with that in higher SRs, or just games where the enemy team feels like working together a little bit more. Because you'll notice up until this point, they had 4 DPS and their only tank was Zarya, right? So it's not exactly been great for them. Now they have a D.Va, which is great for us. I don't recommend using Emp while you're in the Graviton either, because you'll probably end up dying regardless from that position, especially since Hanzo's Dragon Strike keeps coming regardless of if you've been Emp'd or not. So, got way closer to the Reaper than we had to. Like, Sombra's range is pretty good. We don't need to get as close to them as we do keep getting. Like, it's worked, right? It's great. We didn't get punished. It's all going great. But, like, we won't get away with this in higher... Even, like, Platinum, the stuff we're doing won't work consistently. And above that, like, definitely not. They'll just, like, switch to a Bridget or a McCree and kill us while we're dancing around on the payload like a gibbon, right? So we shouldn't be playing as aggressively, like this aggressively. Also, Baby D.Va, really hard to fight as Sombra solo. You are probably going to die to her more often than you would kill her, just because she's so hard to hit. Don't recommend fighting the Baby D.Va unless you actually have help as Sombra. So we use the Emp right here, which is fair enough. I believe we interrupted Death Blossom with it. Unfortunately, we end up getting killed. We're still, like, really in the enemy team, like... be like up on the that's the wrong thing. We can be up on the edge of the ditch right here firing down and we'll still hit like every single bullet and we're like well within our fall off range right there. So we don't need to get as close as we keep getting. Not to sound like a broken record or anything, but we're way too close to people. Way too close. Oh no. I was scared about that one. And this is also the thing with Sombra, is like the closer you are to people, the harder it is for you to get the hack off, right? Because we're just kind of right in front of them. If we're sitting like what's the hack range? It's like 15 meters, right? Like it's something absolutely insane. Hold on. Let me bring a window over here. Yeah, I got like 1,000 YouTube tabs open, whatever, so fight me about it. Sombra stats. What is the range on hacks? Sombra's 30 years old? Fuck, I didn't know. I was a lot older than I thought she was. Yeah, the range is 15 meters. Like, you can hack someone from really far away. Like, if you're trying to hack someone, like, if you're trying to hack, like, a Zarya or a Reaper, like, right in front of them, like, you're gonna get interrupted every time. So we really should be a lot further away. And it's basically the moral of the story, is like, this is all great, this all works, but just because it worked doesn't mean it was a good idea to do it. Because we're just hanging out in, like, we're playing Sombra like a brawler. And she's not really a brawler, right? Like, a brawler is like Reaper, or Hanzo, right? Sombra is not a brawler. We did hack the Tracer, so that's great. She's real sad about that one. She's in competition for the most sad person to get hacked. And, you know, not to spoil the surprise too much, they actually don't push it past here. So, it all did definitely work, but just because it works doesn't mean it was a good idea. We die in the end, like... Damn, this is in Spanish. Reaper sounds really serious in the Spanish voiceover when he's using Death Blossom. So yeah, they didn't push it any further than that. So, short game. Oh god, I accidentally pushed 0 on the numpad instead of continuing to advance. Oh god, it takes us way back to the start. So, you might notice there isn't 4 minutes left on the timeline from the game starting, so that should tell you roughly how this game goes from here. So, typically stomps are not very good games to offer for review because you tend to get not as much information out of them, but this game is actually quite telling overall, even though it's pretty short and is a game we win. Not to spoil the surprise, but like, we win. So we just kind of get up, we hack Bastion, and Bastion was in a fucking stupid place, so he just dies, just like straight up, because he was doing dumb shit. So, if we're attacking, you know, okay, fair enough, leave the translocator with your team, but that's kind of a scary place to leave it at the same time. So, again, we're really close, we don't need to be this close, there are lots of cool places we could go hang out, like, for example, up there, or over there. Or if they push past us, we can, like, wait for them to get, like, further up, then, like, uncloak behind them and start shooting at them. We could also be, like, up on that platform up there. We could be up on the platform directly above us, over here, over there, back there. There's lots of places we could be that are not directly touching the enemy team. And again, Sombra, she's got pretty good range. Got a 480 damage clip. Like, if you're just sat, like, like, you can kind of play Sombra like she's Soldier at this point. Because her gun is just kind of that accurate, right? Like, she's a mid-range hero, and Soldier is basically also a mid-range hero. He's a little closer to long-range than Sombra is, but, like, you can play Sombra pretty close to being Soldier. And, like, if you kill if you pop out, like, right next to the Zenyatta or something, yeah, it's a lot easier for you to hit the Zenyatta, but you don't need to be that close at the same time. And it makes it harder to actually, like, hack them if you're directly touching them. Because if you try and hack, like, a fucking Zenyatta or an Ana and you're, like, touching them, they just turn around and slap you, right? And then it stops. That was right next to the microphone, I'm sorry. So we win the game. Hooray, it wasn't very hard, because they're bad. They're very, very fucking bad. But that's okay. Overwatch doesn't have the hack highlight intro. How disappointing. It's the best highlight intro. Because then, if you win, right, they're already upset. But then, like, one of them's like, I still got play of the game, though. Haha, you just yank the fun right out from underneath them. That's really the best part about playing Sombra, is they just, like, you just make people really fucking sad. More than anything else. You just reach over and you're like, oh, Reinhardt, it looks like you're having some fun over here. Be a shame if something happened to it, wouldn't it? Be a shame if you weren't a hero for 6 seconds. Anyway. So, the thing that stands out the most, don't get so close to people. Focus more on trying to... Migusta is like, I was just looking at the fucking Migusta and it's just like, thinking of some really, like, 2000s memes right there. Horrible flashbacks. Focus more on farming ult than, like, actively trying to kill people. If you see an opportunity to kill someone, that's great, yeah, still take it, but, like, it's secondary to just, like, farming ult as much as possible. Because then, as soon as a team fight starts, in either direction, either they engage a team fight, you engage a team fight, you just use the EMP, and then suddenly they are probably not gonna win that team fight as long as you hit enough people with the EMP. And that's, like, the thing with Sombra. Like, the thing that is really strong and unfair about Sombra is the EMP, because it's just whole team not doing anything. I've seen a lot of games where the enemy team has 6 ultimates, but they lose the fight regardless because the Sombra EMP'd all 6 of them, so they lost the team fight that by all accounts they should have won. And this is really good if you're the attacking team, because the defending team doesn't get very many opportunities, right? Like, if you're the defending team and you EMP the attacking team, they lose the team fight, but they've got a lot more to go through if they lose as the attacking team. If the defending team loses a team fight, they probably lose an entire checkpoint as a result of that, right? Or close to, if nothing else. So, it's really, really terrible. This is why she's really good at 2CP maps attacking, because the defending team, they only get, like, one really good team fight. So if you just wash them on one team fight with the EMP, you win the game, basically. So focus more on farming ult and staying, like, further away. Like, don't get, like, right on top of them. Because Sombra's more of a mid-range hero than a close-range. She's not a close-range hero. Okay, this is just straight up. She's not a close-range hero. She's a mid-range hero. So don't focus so much on, like, getting right on top of them and, like, stalling the payload and stuff like that. Just, like, harass the fuck out of people and farm your ultimate, and then make them feel bad when a team fight starts. That's the real goal when playing Sombra. So thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us, and I hope you found the video helpful.